So introduction to business model. Um, we all know that when we it's very common, 'di ba? Um, currently it's very common na we some of the people are doing business, 'di ba? Especially the pandemic because unsa may purpose nga na naga-business ta? What is the purpose why we do business? Anyone who can tell me? Ngano unsay reason ngano naga-business ta in the first place?
Income.
To
Make
it,
money.
it, it will it will be a source of income, okay? Kanang maka-profit ta. Okay? So ang most likely ang answer ana is it would be the our source of income para um if ever 'di ba usually ang common na mindset is natin bayaran ng mga something at least um gikan sa koan gikan sa business, money gikan sa atong business is you can use the money to pay some bills or whatsoever. But sa entrepreneurship man god, it doesn't mean that you don't stop on creating your idea or your idea, especially when you do prototyping. Sometimes manggod, ang very common manggod ana is research. Ang sa research manggod is stop on sa conclusion, pero wala sila'y kanang continuation where they can market their idea. So mo na sa technopreneurship, it is not only on the research side but also with the business side ang technopreneurship. Mao na natay topic that is for related for business. And kaning business model, kaning na topic is um kanang very common ni siya na topic which is under sa business administration or marketing na mga degrees. So uh, most likely they have already an entrep, especially kay naman tay I think nantay BS entrep already, especially sa koan sa Kabadbaran campus. So most likely, pero first year pa man ang entrep sa Kabadbaran campus, but nevertheless, ang kaning mga degrees for sure they have an idea about the business model. Mao na sa technopreneurship, it's better to include also the topic related to business. So mao ni ang kaning sa business model and also the business model canvas. Okay, so let's talk about the business model. When we consider business model, like you mentioned, why we do business is this is actually defined as how you plan to make money. Okay? So, 'di ba, ang reason na to why we do business is it is a source of income. We make money from out of it. And then business model as a story that explains how an enterprise works. And 'di ba when we do business, sometimes mo na ang sugod na makatukod og company. So in a logic of the company, it shows how it operates and creates the captures value for stakeholders in a competitive marketplace. So for a logic in a company, of a company rather, it outlines the design of revenues, costs, and profits associated with the business enterprise um, delivering that value, and it defines also how the enterprise creates and delivers value to customers and then converts payments received to profits. So as you can see here in this um, slide, these are actually uh, different types of car. So business model is actually similar or comparable to a car. So different car designs have different functions creating different value for drivers. And the way the car is built places constraints on what the driver can do, and it determines um, which tactics the driver can use. Diba sometimes when we consider car, it could be a small or a larger car. So for a small car, it would be more valuable to a person who wants to drive through narrow streets than a larger car would, in which the task would be impossible. So imagine that the driver could modify the features of the car, which are the shape, power, fuel consumption, and the seats. So such modifications will not be tactical, but they would constitute strategies because they would entail changing the machine itself. So in summary, the strategy when the strategy for this one is designing and building the car, and the business model itself is the car, and the tactics are how you can drive the car. And when we do business model, it actually answers these following questions. So the first one, it's very important that who is your customer? You need to know who is your customer. So we all know, all of you, each of the group knows who's your customer, especially who is your target audience. And second is, what does the customer value? Meaning, what the customers, unsay gina-satisfy sa customer, unsay gina-value mismo sa customer if ever they buy something like a product or a service. And the third one is, how do you deliver value at an appropriate cost? Since we're doing business, kailangan we consider unsa ang kanang cost na affordable for a certain customer or target audience. Speaking of the customer value, when we talk about customer value, Magod, it actually measures a product or services worth and compares it to its possible alternatives. So this determines whether the customer feels like they received enough value for the price they paid for the product or service. So it is the satisfaction the customer experiences by taking a given action relative to the cost of that action. So that is how we consider about customer value. Okay, from the word itself, value, kanang kanang bitaw kung ikaw magpalit kag isa ka butang, kanang bitaw masatisfy ang imong self na um kanang masatisfy mong self na especially with an affordable cost na gipalit nimo ang isa ka product or service. For the business model development, it is the process of the business model development are the following. It is a cyclical, continuous process of conceptualizing value through the activities of market segmentation, value proposition, um, and revenue modeling. And it is organizing for value creation involving cost and revenue estimation. And it is finding equipment, resources, and partners to permit collaborative innovation. Also, it is a constant experimentation and adjustment to changing market environments. And also, it is a transitional phase between the invention and the innovation stage. So thereby implying that the process of business model development for the commercialization of innovations is a fundamental aspect within the innovation process. So by rethinking and reconfiguring these elements, the technological entrepreneur may be able to identify a new approach that can provide the basis for a new model that confers a competitive advantage. So the business model approach is all about outlining an approach, but changing that approach through throughout if or when you discover that your assumptions and educated guesses were wrong. So for each new iteration or version, you as an entrepreneur makes a minor change to the current business model to better capitalize on market opportunities. So sometimes magod um namagoy uban na mga like mga professionals, mga entrepreneurial professionals. Sometimes ang ilang mga service is they can um, provide kanang idea to the current business para mas better makapitalize ang isa ka koan, ang isa ka business on market opportunities. So, speaking of business model, we have actually in a business model, it has actually parts or here is three parts. The first one is everything it takes to make something. So this focus on the design, raw materials, manufacturing, labor, and so on. The second is everything it takes to make something. It focuses on marketing, distribution, delivering a service, and processing the sale. And the third one is how and what the customer pays. So it focuses on pricing strategy, payment methods, payment timing, and so on. So in the business model, we have actually some types. So we have actually three types of business model. So the first one is what we call direct model or direct businesses. These are the most common and involve one-sided are the most common and involve one-sided actors, which are the users, which becomes your customers. And some examples of direct model or direct businesses are coffee shop, which is a classic example. And other examples include retail stores, software as a service, many mobile apps, hardware stores, and stores that sell physical goods. So more on when we talk about direct model, murag gibali ikaw as a user, ikaw gibali ang customer na nagapalit sa koan sa isa ka product sa isa ka product mismo. So you are you're actually the buyer of a certain product. And the second one is what we call a multi-sided model. So this is actually users and customers which are multi-actors which are usually different people. And for multi-sided model, some examples are ad-based models, big data, and enterprise, where the products are free to users and their value is monetized by a different customer base. So that's why ang example nato diri are PayPal and Facebook. Okay, we all know, especially Facebook is a free um, I don't know kung unsay tawag ani, free app ba siya or uh, uh, free basta free service for all the people mismo. And the third one is and also for the last type is the marketplace model. These are a more complex variant of multi-sided models made up of two different customer segments of buyers and sellers. So ang very common na example diri kay ang eBay and Airbnb. So when we talk about marketplace, it has both the buyers and the sellers. So some examples, Foodpanda, um, Shopee, and Lazada, where the customer segments or the customer segments for this particular business model type are the buyers and the sellers. So there will be the buyers ato nagapalit sa mga koan, sa mga products, and sellers atong nagabaligya sa mga products mismo. We have also this basic forms of business model. So if you can think of a new business model, you can try to adapt one of these basic forms. I will not discuss further of these basic forms. We have actually 19 basic forms here, so you can actually check the table, there's 19 basic forms for business model. There is a basic form nato ng business model ang very common ani kay crowdsourcing. So sometimes manggod kung if ever manggod we do a business, sometimes we do crowdsourcing with other people. But when we do business, di ba, unsa tong gingon ninyo? Unsay purpose nato why we do business? Ang purpose nato is, unsay atong main purpose why we do business? Or why people are doing business? Unsa may ilahang kuan? Unsay may ilahang purpose pa? Source of income. Unsa pa other kuan? Other term for that. Source of income, profit. So um we actually do business because of the profit that we gain from our business. So a successful business model just needs to collect more money from customers than it costs to make the product. So this is actually your profit. It doesn't mean kung na kay business, wala kay kwarta na igawas, di ba? Especially sa pagbuhat sa product, sa ikabayad sa mga koan, sa when say kung na mga employees nimo. So, mao na in a successful business model kailangan mas daghan ang imohang makolect na money from a customer or customers than the cost to make a certain product or service. Kay kung negative ang kuan, kung gamay lang ang imohang kuan nakuha na or na collect na money, meaning dili siya viable ang imohang gi-pursue business. And developing a successful business model is insufficient to assure competitive advantage as imitation is often easy. So differentiated yet effective and efficient business model is more likely to yield profits. So speaking of business, especially of kind of earning money from customers, or it is a source of income or making profit out of it. Do you have can you give me an example na mga current business kung asa nagalisod karon sa pandemic? Do you have any idea or any examples of of business na kanang nagalisod karon sa pandemic, especially until now? Mga boarding houses, unsa pa man, airlines, computer shops. Unsa pa yung nakalink sa airlines? Unsa may nagalink sa airlines? Anyone? Unsa may
Gamay ra
nagalink
sir.
unsa?
Gamay rag mga passengers sir.
Transportation service, travel restrictions. Sige pa, unsa pa yung business na kanang related sa travel, sa airlines? Unsa
Resorts, sir.
resorts? Tourism. Exactly, that is actually tourism. Di ba, can you imagine ang tourism businesses karon kay especially mga tourist spots like what you have mentioned, the hotels, kanang especially the airlines, kay dili ta maka-travel karon because of travel restrictions. Naga-close og borders sa ubang countries or other places. Kahit here the Philippines, lisod mo adto in one place to another because of travel restrictions. You need to provide like requirements to present in the border in the border para for health safety protocols. Unlike before na you can go whenever you want, 'di ba? Kay because of the pandemic, when the pandemic started last year, ang nag-stop jud mismo is more on the tourism businesses. imagine ang profit sa tourism is nag-decline jud for how many months? Like we are in the um we had this pandemic for 1 year already, but still the tourism is not, wala pa nagka-cope up ang tourism. Kay ang tourism man good is dako jud ang income sa tourism. Especially those places na ang source of income nila is sa tourism. So mo na lisod ang ilahang kuan karon, especially sa mga tourist destination, lisod ang mga kwaog kanang source of income kay walay mga travelers mo adto sa ilaha because people come and go, and because of the pandemic, people will just stay at home and will not travel, 'di ba? Kahit domestic, pero even in not only in domestic but also mga international travels. Mao na it's a sad truth jud karon na ang tourism industries kay or businesses kay naga lisod jud sila karon. I would like to share this one. I actually watched a video sa YouTube na kanang those countries nag-mention sa isa ka video na wala pa cases so far of COVID-19, but the video itself was uploaded 6 months ago. So I don't know if it is the same status pa. But those countries na mention are those countries na ang source of income nila is tourism. So what are those countries? Do you have an idea kung sa mga countries na kanang source of income kay tourism? Which part of the world itself, which country sa world mismo na ang source of income nila kay tourism? Those sa Pacific Ocean, exactly. Those sa Pacific Ocean, like just an example, Tuvalu, Fiji Islands, Federated States of Marshall Islands, um, um, those located above New Zealand, Nanagingon, Papua New Guinea, those islands which are located in the Pacific Ocean, um, kaya ang ilang source of income kay tourism. And then when I watched the video, it's it's makes me sad kay tungod ang businesses like hotels, like yeah, like especially the hotels kay nagsirado pa sila until now. Na naisa jud nag-ingon na ang ilahang hotel jud mismo kay 6 months 6 months na jud sila nag-close kay walay mga travelers or tourists na nagato sila ha because of borders restrictions or travel restrictions. So kaya ang ilang country manggod kay gina ano na gina um kuan na nag travel restrictions sa murag wala na yung nag-adto na mga kuan, dili na pwede, bawal na gibali mo adto ang mga tourists. So mo na lisod kayo ang kaning mga klase mga business. Mo nang ningon ang mga business is dili jud na forever, di ba? Like there's a possibility na ma-decline jud siya in the future if ever something will happen. Like for example, the tourism industries which relies to to the travelers, so mo nilang source of income, and because of the pandemic is gabi ang pag-decline jud sa koan for the tourism businesses. So yeah, that is all about the business model. So like what I've mentioned, sa inyo ha sa technopreneurship, we don't stop on actually like presenting um your idea by creating a product or by innovating it, but also you need to know how to market or um how to um, make money out of it. So, Mona, it's very important to discuss about mga topics for technopreneurship. Especially kung engineering ta, di ba? Murag, wala tay kuan, wala tay, I don't know kung ka, kamo kay Portman mo sa senior high school na subject. for sure na mo'y subject about business. Pero sa ako before manggod is sa mong curriculum kahit high school, um I don't remember that I don't have a kanang subject related to business. Pero kani manggod it's very important manggod kay pwede manggod ka mag sugod og startup, mga startup companies. So, 'di ba na Korean na Korean na what you call this? Korean na TV series na startup. Tama ba? Is the name of the TV series was Startup? 'Di ba? Startup. Tapos actually relate dira ang technopreneurship ang startup because ang technopreneurship is the same sa ginabuhat sa startup na TV series. Okay, they brainstorm, they pitch, they discuss kung sa ilahang na-come up na idea. So, mo na kailangan should improve should further ang koan ang especially about technopreneurship. So, let us proceed on the business model canvas. For the business model, um, we do have what we call business model canvas. So when we say business model canvas, mura siya og kanang visual tool, mura siya og table kung asa you can input the 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 necessary idea when you do a business model. So when we define business model canvas, it is a visual framework for describing the different elements of how a business works. So the business model canvas is actually created by Alexander Osterwalder. So it describes the rationale rather of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. So it illustrates what the business does for and with whom, the resources it needs to do that, and how money flows in and out of the business. And business model canvas is also a tool used in developing new or existing business models. So it doesn't mean kung ano kalabitaw na existing the business doesn't mean na kanang padayon na gihapon na ang padayon na ang kaning existing business. Pwede man good na changes ang isa ka existing business kay tungod we need to adapt kung unsay mga bag-o karon sa atong environment. So it explains business model in a straightforward, structured way, and it is an organized way to lay out your assumptions to see if you have missed anything important and to compare your model to others. So, mao na kung mao na kung mag kuan what they call this when you um pursue a business, it doesn't mean na kanang you actually strict on unsa jud ang imohang ginaisip. Sometimes as the years goes by, kanang nag-change pod ang idea regarding sa imong business. Sometimes you will develop new things na pwede magamit sa imong business. And for a business model canvas, it is a non-linear process. So it allows for the effects of alterations in one area to be clear, making it easier to play around with changes to current or potential models. So this is the canvas, the business model canvas. So I will explain each of the elements included here in the business model canvas. So later, I will show you an example of a given business model canvas, which is the Netflix. And I know some of you are very familiar with the Netflix. It's a very kanang sikat siya na application where you can watch any types of TV series or movies. Sometimes ang mga TV producers or movie producers kay sometimes sa Netflix na nila ginabutang. So later, I will show you an example of a business model canvas by explaining each element here sa to ang canvas. So the first element is value proposition. Ang value proposition manggod um, is also a topic sa entrepreneurship. And I hope that you watch the videos related to value proposition. This is actually the quiz 3 na akong giposted sa Facebook group last time. And then when we talk about value proposition, it is the innovation, um, service, or lecture or feature intended to make a company or product attractive to customers. So it addresses specific customers' pains and offers gains by meeting a need. So it answers the following questions: what are you offering them? What difference do we make and to whom? And do the customers care? So for many cultural organizations, a natural starting point is actually the value proposition. It is the based on a review and analysis of the benefits, costs, and value that an organization can deliver to its customer. It is the reason why customers turn to one company over another. And something to keep in mind is your value propositions can change as you gather more data from customer interviews. So when we talk about value proposition from the word itself, value, unsay um, unsay mas satisfy sa customer mismo. So like what I've mentioned on the earlier slides, 'di ba, you have your own customers or target audience. So you need to know unsa jud ang um, gina-value sa customers, unsay mas satisfy sa inyong customers or target audience. So for a given example of business model canvas is the Netflix. So here, ang gibutang diri na value proposition or na masatisfy sa mga customers are 24/7 on-demand entertainment, view high-definition shows and movies, stream content, unlimited access, Netflix original, 30-day free trial, and no commercials. Kaya di ba kung um, kani maisip jud din yun na how about we include this when we start up if ever wala pang Netflix. How about kung mag-start ta og buhat og app kung asa walay commercials, like ato makita sa TV nato, di ba, na yung mga commercials, or sa YouTube na J commercials, and then mao nang makakuan, mao nang maka dagdag og time. So murag it's our bro, kita naman good ang naga um, own access naman good nato na siya, murag kita na ang mag-decide na kailangan mag-watch na ko ani, tapos murag padayon na ka mag-watch ana. And then also kung sa Netflix man good is anytime pwede nimo ma-access ang koan, ang mga movies or TV series sa koan, especially sa Netflix. That's why it is a 24/7 on-demand entertainment. Okay, so that is for the uh, value proposition. Okay, so next is the other element is customer segments. It defines the target groups of people or organizations. So this is actually the demographic information of your customers. So when we say demographic information, the information you may want to predict and test for this section, which include age, gender, time spent working, and etc. And just an important fact, find out what customers would and are willing to give up. So just an example is time to use product, switch from current product. And every company needs profitable customers in order to survive. So using BMC, you will determine what your customer segments will be. So sa Netflix, ang iyahang customer segments here, when I zoom in the part for customer segments, is for micro segmentation, 2,000 preference clusters. Usage is for usage segmentation, and for geographical is the content or languages. Because 'di ba kung in terms sa geographical, which is the content or languages, dili siya nag-focus sa isa ka language, which is the English, which is the universal language. Um, sometimes na this siya sometimes there is kanang choices rather of other language na pwede nimo mapili. I don't know what are those mga language na available sa Netflix. Pero mao na ang gina-consider diri sa Netflix, because you can choose actually any languages na available sa Netflix. And also in terms sa content na geographical, kay nauban na mga TV series or movies na maka-access lang ka kung unsa na country lang ka nagpuyo. Tama? Am I correct? 'Di ba na uban ng mga na may mga TV series or kalang mga movies na ma-access lang kung asa ka nagapuyo. Like for example, kung may TV series or TV series na available sa UK, so kung nagpuyo lang ka sa UK, so ma-access jud mo na siya. Pero kung naka sa Philippines, di jud mo siya ma-access. So mao na ang in terms sa geographical sa content. So this is the examples for the customer segments mismo. The other element is key partners. So this is the list of people or organizations needed in order to carry out the activities and reach the customers. Um, these are the people from formal or informal alliances, collaborations, partnerships, or joint ventures, and suppliers. So it may provide things to achieve what we call key resources and key activities, which also part of the element. These two are the elements also sa business model canvas. And just an important fact, no key partners roles and added value. So for the key partners for Netflix, are, since we're talking about um, TV series and movies, these are the key partners kung if ever magtukod kag Netflix or this kind of business rather. We have the investors, media producers, filmmaker guilds, cinemas, theaters, TV networks, Amazon, consumer electronic companies, and regulators. Kay, like what I've mentioned kanina, some of the producers, kaya mga movie producers, mga TV series producers, sometimes dili na sa TV na nila gina-show ang koan ang ang TV series or koan ang TV series or the movie. Sometimes they show it sa Netflix, pero at least daghay tao ang maka-watch, 'di ba? Like daghay varieties ana, it could be anime series, cartoons, Korean, ano pa man, mga Filipino TV series. I don't know if there is a Filipino TV series, but kay wala na ko dili ko nag-search og ingana ng mga genre. In terms of movie is mga international movies, napoy other movies na pwede niyo ma-access to, which are with a different language. So sometimes kanina mga klase ng mga partners, especially mga producers, sometimes um, instead sa cinema na nila i-show ang kaning movie or sa TV ang kaning mga TV series, sometimes sa koan na sa Netflix. Mao na natay ginatawag na Netflix originals, di ba? Kay daghan na magoy mga tao naga-purchase na og Netflix. So that is for the key partners. And next is key activities. For the key activities, most important activities, these are the most important activities in executing a company's value proposition. So it answers the following questions. What do you need to do to deliver your value proposition? What do you need to do to develop the customer relationships you want? And what do you need to do to bring in revenue streams? So, in some ways, um, this is one of the most obvious parts of the canvas. And if you're assessing a current business model and a key activity doesn't especially connect to those areas, you may need to adjust your model. So for key activities, um, especially sa Netflix, mo nang iyahang mga key activities. These are technology, content licensing, content production, content distribution, data analytics, and sales and marketing. So those are the key activities, especially kaning example for Netflix. So these are some of the inputs na pwede nimo mabutang sa key activities. Wait, does it mean ha na akong i-explain diri sa koan sa business model canvas is the same sa inyo ha? It varies to from one product to another or to one service to another. So it depends sa inyo kung product or service kung unsay klase product or service ang inyong i-pursue to do it as a business or to make it marketable. Okay, so just a continuation. The next element is the customer relationship. It actually describes the kind of relationships customers want or expect with you and the type of relationships you want to be with them. So it relates to the values of your organization and how you see your organization working in practice. So if, for example, your values include collaboration and equality, you might want to establish relationships based on co-creation, listening, and community input. So it is defined to extent to which different customer segments can influence what you do and how you do it. And there is no right or wrong answer, but the answer can vary from organization to organization. So here sa Netflix, ang iyahang gi-input sa customer relationships are self-service, on-demand, and ease of use or easy to use. So, di ba, when we what we know about Netflix is self-service na siya. Depende sa to ako um, if ever manggod nag-purchase sa tawag Netflix, it depends sa bagod sa ato ako kung sa tong choice na pangitaon og TV series or movies. And then mo na there is a relationship should mismo with the customer who buy this kind of product which is the Netflix. Next is key resources. So it describes what you need to have and maintain to deliver your value proposition, customer relationships, and revenue streams. So we have tangible resources. These are the financial reserves, buildings, equipment, and people. Intangible assets, brand, trust, excuse me, data, and intellectual property. So for the business model canvas for Netflix, ang iyahang key resources are brand, apps or websites, platform, employees, filmmakers or producers, and prizes or awards. So these are some examples of key resources for BMC of Netflix. The next element is channels. So it is the ways on reaching the customer segments, how you actually reach out your target audience. So some example would be word of mouth, advertising, social media. So we all know that there are different kinds of social media platforms, community or business networks. So it plays a role in raising product or service awareness among customers and delivering your value propositions to them. 'Di ba when we do business, makita nato sa koan, sa especially sa Facebook sa news feed if naisa ka bag-o nagtukod og business, sometimes it they post it in the Facebook na i-koan kanang moadto sila sa koan silang store to buy their goods or their products. So that is how you actually reach out your customer or your target audience. So that is how we consider about channels. So for Netflix, these are the input na gibutang for channels. So any device, Netflix app. We all know that there's an application for Netflix. So it could be pwede siya for Apple or for um, what do you call this? Kanang Apple and uh, um,
Android, sir.
other brand. Sa pa ko na kanang
Android.
Samsung. Android, yes, Android. Sorry. Apple, Android. I don't know if napay other na mga koan name. But anyway, word of mouth, online and offline advertising, and the most common is the social media. So kung social media, it could be the Instagram. Sometimes ako'y makita ng mga business na ginapost nila lang mga products sa Instagram, sa IG. 'Di ba? Um, I don't know kung sa Twitter is very common. Kaya ang Twitter is more on lahi magod ang purpose sa Twitter. So, ang very common ng mga social media platforms are Facebook and Instagram. Okay? So, this is for the channels. The next element, second to the last, is the cost structure. This is identifies all the costs associated with operating the business model. It doesn't mean, like what I mentioned kanina, it doesn't mean kung magtukod kag business, it doesn't mean na kanang wala kay kwarta na koan na imuhang murag isugod na mag-pursue sa imuhang business. So, na jud kay cost ana, especially kanang um, dili lang sa pag-produce sa product, but also when you pay it with your employees, if you are making a company or kanang ibayad sa mga other fees na kailangan like permits or whatsoever. And then the answers, the questions that you need to answer are: what do you need to pay for? What will it cost to deliver your value proposition via the key resources and activities? So it is actually useful to cluster types of costs, so you can see the proportions spent on staffing, program, fundraising, on other common areas. Okay, in business mangod, you do not focus only on 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 the cost on how you create your product. You also focus on dealing when kanang mga manpower, cost for manpower, kanang mga permits. So those are some of the costs that you need to identify. So that is for the cost structure. Especially, for example, in my case for civil engineering, 'di ba, when we build structures like high-rise buildings, bridges, um, roads, kay dili mi naga-focus sa cost sa mga materials namong kailangan pagtukod sa kaning mga structures. We also focus sa mga manpower, sa labor. Okay? Sa mga mason, sa mga laborers, mga carpenters, and etc. And dili lang dira pod, we also include kanang mga permits like building permits. Now, it's very important when you construct a certain structure. So that is what we consider about the cost structure. Okay, so um, for the what you call this net for the business model canvas for Netflix, ang iyahang cost structure kay um, sa production, kailangan niya bayaran for the production, research and development, licensing, infrastructure, marketing, payment processing fees, and general or admin. So, mo lang sa cost structure. Okay, so last element is the revenue streams. So, this is actually the sources from which a company generates money by selling their product or service to the customers. So it describe how you will earn revenue from your value proposition. So it doesn't mean kung magtukod mo og business, it doesn't mean na dili jud imposible jud na dili mo mag-earn or maka-earn og money out from your business. So the um, it answers the following question: what activities do you do that bring in different revenue streams? So you can also assess the importance of each element of cost by seeing how it delivers revenue income. What activities do you do that bring in different revenue streams? And the income from particular customers may be worth noting if they represent a significant proportion of overall income, such as local authority funding. And you will need to pay particular attention to what you need to do to maintain that income and assess how secure it is in the future. So for Netflix, ang iyahang um, kanang revenue streams niya is through subscription model, dili ta makakuha, dili ta makakuha og Netflix app kung dili ta magbayad sa subscription, 'di ba? So sometimes ako I have a Netflix account, so it is per month ang payment ana. Um what I know kay there's a difference sa kuan sa payment sa each country. So, dito sa Philippines is much cheaper compare sa US kay um like what my tita magod um created a Netflix account in the US, tapos she told me na magbalhin siya dito sa Philippines using my account kay nag-increase og amount dito sa US. So it is more on the I don't know on say reason ana. So it is more the geographical aspect. So la, like here sa koan sa Netflix, um the customer who wants to get the Netflix app, sometimes they will pay for the subscription, and then the product placements, DVD rental, future model, which is the licensing Netflix own content. So this is the what do you call this? Input of the business model canvas, an example of a business model canvas. So most likely ang inyong buhaton ramang good is since I show you or discuss to you what are the elements of the business model canvas, you just only identify and then you just only input kung asa ninyo ibutang diri sa business model canvas. So this is an example na BMC, especially for Netflix. Okay, so it is like it is a visual framework or a table lang mismo that describes the business model of a certain product or service. So here are some of the here are some of the examples of business model for other applications or products like Spotify. We have also for Airbnb. So na example ani sa Airbnb. And yeah, that would be all for the business model and business model canvas. So you can check the reference as shown here sa slide. So dili ang basis namo sa among discussion sa business model and business model canvas.